Law Talk on 1480 WSAR is brought to you by the law offices of Sabra and Aspen. Now into the studio with your host of Law Talk, Attorney Steve Sabra.
Good afternoon. This is Attorney Steven Sabra. You're listening to Law Talk on 1480 WSAR. We do this show every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. It's your opportunity to call in with any law-related questions. Let's start with what probably is on a lot of people's minds is this issue of snow and ice. We've had two pretty decent, one gigantic snowstorm and then a pretty decent one since then. And so there's always discussion about who's responsible, what happens if, what about the sidewalks, what happens if you fall on a sidewalk, what happens if you fall on someone else's property? What happens if it's a commercial premises? There's all kinds of issues. And the law was changed in Massachusetts fairly recently, and I suppose that's how you define recently. But in 2010, there was a gigantic change in the law because prior to that, the decision in that case by our Supreme Judicial Court, in order to have a claim for an injury dealing with snow and ice, you had to show an unnatural accumulation of snow and ice, the key being the word unnatural. That's changed now as of 2010, and the standard is like it is in any case dealing with premises liability, which is more of a what you'd probably call a reasonable man standard, a general negligence standard, which talks about whether or not there's a duty of care and a breach of a duty of care. Let's start with and continue with the snow and ice discussion because there's a lot of maybe miscommunication or that's not really the right word, but there's a lot of discussion about responsibility and what you should do, etc. So the easy part is if you're the owner of property, then you would have the obligation to keep your property in a safe manner for people that come on your property, whether they're invitees, meaning postal workers, FedEx, UPS, people making deliveries, or people that are invited on the property by you, friends, relatives, neighbors, that type of thing. So that's the easy part. So if you own a single-family home, for example, well, your responsibility is to take care of your property, whether it be the sidewalks, the stairs, etc. If it's let's say a three-family home, where there are a lot of those in Fall River, then it's the responsibility again of the property owner, which is the landlord. Sometimes. Well, the other example would be commercial property, and again, it's really the same thing, that the commercial property owner is responsible for keeping their property safe, whether it be snow and ice or any other defect. Sometimes, however, on commercial property, there's sometimes the shifting of the burden. In other words, often by contract, a commercial property owner will hire some other company to be responsible for the removal of snow and ice, and that may not always be evident initially, and sometimes I've been involved in cases where you bring a claim against the commercial property owner, and then they bring in another party that they say had the responsibility to remove snow and ice, and there may be, for example, a contract between that commercial property owner and some other company to take care of snow and ice issues. So that is something that usually you might get that information before filing suit, but oftentimes it's after filing suit that you find that out. And then it comes down to question of what the contract says. Oftentimes, in the contract between the commercial property owner and the the company that they hired to take care of the snow and ice, there's what's called indemnification agreements, and where if there's a claim brought, then the company that was hired to take care of the snow and ice is responsible to indemnify the commercial property owner. Sometimes it's even more complicated as far as who would actually pay the attorney's fees and that type of thing. So it's really depends on what the contract says in those kinds of circumstances, and so it's something that you have to really look into that and try to determine what the contract says. But it's usually you start with who the property owner is, and then go from there. But again, on Tuesdays I'm here from 1 to 2 p.m. Again, my name is Attorney Steven Sabra. You've been listening to Law Talk on 1480 WSAR.